On March 13, 2020, the United States declared a national emergency due to the coronavirus outbreak. Schools, workplaces, hospitals, and thousands of other establishments were affected. Small businesses function at the heart of communities all across the U.S., bringing growth and development to local and countrywide industries and helping build community culture. The lockdown has affected everything and everyone for several months now, but for smaller, local, or family-owned businesses, this has been disastrous. How have the businesses you may know and love stayed afloat? So how has coronavirus affected business?
It affected the business in general terms, as everyone can expect. We've lost business.
You have staff that are definitely concerned to come back to work, as well as clients who are also concerned to come in to enclosed spaces, which in turn does affect your profit margin of what are you making, because you don't have as many clients coming through the door or staff.
People's mental state, it's affected incredibly, like myself and my wife and my brother just being stressed out with having to worry all the time.
Despite the wide range of small businesses and the services they provide, the strain that the pandemic has put on business has been universal.
When the shutdown came initially, of course, we shut down also. During that time, I had to think about how to pivot so that we would have something to come back to, because it's not just me and the fact that, this is my life and it's all that I have, but it's all the people who work for me. How do I sustain this so that everybody has a job to come back to?
We ended up having to switch to carry out completely and to online ordering. So we had to sort of change our business model overnight.
Immediately, a lot of our jobs went on pause, and so that affected our revenue. Also, the companies that we had invoices out to, they also were paused because they weren't bringing in revenue, so that affected payments that were coming into us as well.
Of course, there have been many safety precautions that are mandatory for businesses to run these days.
Everybody is masked in the kitchen, everybody is 6 feet apart, temperatures are taken every day, hands are washed. There are acrylic shields in between staff and customers. We're no longer offering samples. We used to give out samples all the time, and we don't do that so that there's less of an opportunity for physical contact. And in the shops, of course, we have the stickers on the floor that keep people 6 feet apart.
As stylists, we do disinfect and clean all the stations and chairs in between every client, and periodically our hard surfaces like our stations and doorknobs and anything that can be in contact.
We also had to think about our number one priority, which is the safety of our team and our staff. And so immediately we had to transition a very highly technical business with very expensive equipment and set everybody up in their homes.
To keep everyone safe and to continue with as much business as possible, we've stuck with carryout, which has been a revenue decrease for us, but the community has supported us.
But small businesses have been taking drastic hits because of the limitations of prioritizing safety.
Everything's going up in price, and gloves are becoming having a shortage. So the cost of having to use gloves all the time is becoming a little bit expensive.
We work a shorter week, we work fewer hours, but we still have rent, we still have utilities. The diminished payroll is challenging.
I guess the biggest challenge is sometimes people forget masks, so you normally but I've done the same thing, so you normally have to just remind them as they come in, they run out. But we also keep masks here. We have disposable ones that we can offer them too.
The biggest stress, I think, has to be is enforcing and self-policing. And there are some people that just don't give a hoot about it, and they think it's the biggest BS in the world. And having to argue with them about the simplest thing and saying, like, listen, if you all move the table closer together, and an inspector comes by, or one of these volunteers that inspect restaurants, we can get in trouble and fined, and it's going to hurt our business, or they temporarily close us.
Actually, we have one employee who refuses to work during the virus, so he hasn't worked since March. So we're doing a lot more business with less people, but we're making it.
In the first few months of the lockdown, the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, provided small businesses with a business stimulus that was designed to keep them afloat for a little while. Whether that money was enough, however, is up for debate.
We took the PPP loan that the government had offered. We applied for that. That was a crazy process in itself, but that was extremely helpful to get us through the first couple of weeks that were highly uncertain.
Large companies got enormous amounts of money and small companies got very small amounts of money, if any at all. What they gave us was minimal, and it's very scary right now because, it's just about gone.
We did receive some PPP funds. It has helped sustain the business. And to be fair, we are also open. So we are generating some of our own revenue. Has it been enough? It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell how long this is going to go on for us.
Businesses are expecting to go through many months of this, but for lots of local establishments, this is the end of the line. As of late September, roughly 100,000 small businesses have shut down permanently. Some shops that have been running for more than 50 years are closing their doors for good.
I know a lot of small businesses, in the sense of restaurants and things like that, are struggling a lot more.
The restaurants are like dribbling back maybe one every 2 weeks and half of what they used to order, but a lot of them are gone forever. They just couldn't survive.
One of the best things about running your own business is that you're in charge and you get to make all the decisions. And the worst thing about running your own business is that you're in charge and you get to make all the decisions.
I think it's a lot harder for small businesses because they don't have as many resources. Staff is smaller. Obviously, the money is, smaller. We don't have like a corporate entity to reach out to figure out like all these, what are your COVID protocols?
That's why you're seeing a lot of smaller companies closing down, and larger companies can survive. They can lobby Congress. They can prove that by their demise, it will hurt the economy on such a massive scale as one company.
We're always here, and we're a large one that might be corporate controlled, and you have different employees all the time. So I think people like coming in to see us.
The country is still in a state of limbo, but are business owners ready for this to continue, or even once it's over, to come back?
I think that we are ready to trust what we've learned, and we would be ready to implement it pretty quickly if this were to surge again.
I don't think I would be emotionally prepared. I think the only thing that allows us to be emotionally prepared for this is the hope that it will soon be more manageable than it is.
I think we've all learned to be prepared for things like this, but it is still scary in the business sense of we will still have to pay rent and pay bills and things like that. I think in a situation like this, it's always a learning curve. You're always going to learn new things.
We know more what to do. We've already started planning on trying to basically squeeze out maybe an extra seat or two inside, and then also bring back delivery because that was helpful. Are we fully prepared and wanting it to happen? No. But will we have an idea of what we're getting ourselves into? Yes, very much.
The coronavirus's effect on the economy is described by the International Monetary Fund as the greatest economic recession since the Great Depression. Larger corporations are surviving and even finding ways to profit off of the pandemic, but smaller businesses have found themselves in over their heads. Every closing of a local business is not only a blow to the national economy, but it's also the conclusion of a narrative that contributes to the people in its community. Our society would be a completely different place without them, and now more than ever, they need our support.
We all say it, support local producers, support local businesses. It's a very painful time.
It requires to stay successful during this. It's just a mentality shift of understanding that change creates opportunity. And so if you don't have that mentality as a business, if you're stuck to an old way of doing something and that's what you've been doing, you won't be set up to succeed when everything changes on a dime.
Yes, final thoughts. Wear your mask, wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart, don't be stupid.